You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 83. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kailey
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello, and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. Today, we will be talking about growth mindset, why it's important to us, why it's something that we have plastered all over EduCalm Classroom. And Kailey will be sharing a growth mindset story. Yeah, super excited to share. It was that pivotal moment for me when I recognized that growth mindset was really important.
I love it. But before we get started, we would love to share our sponsor with you, Free Label.
You guys have heard us talk about how much we love Free Label so much already, but let's just keep talking about how amazing they are.
Okay, I recently got the Andy jumpsuit and I love it. I can wear it in like a million different ways. I can dress it up, dress it down. It looks so good and it feels like pajamas.
I'm so sad that I didn't call dibs on that because we both have pretty much all the same Free Label pieces, but we try to not always be too matchy-matchy. But you know what? I'm going to have to get that jumpsuit, even though we'll probably walk out like twins several times because it just looks so good and so comfortable, and you can wear it so many different ways.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And the material, the sustainable material is just fantastic. It feels so good. It's so comfortable.
Yeah. So if you haven't already heard about us talk about Free Label, one of the big reasons that we love them is they're a very ethical brand. So they pay very close attention to details of the production of their garments. They are in super close relationships with the people that are making their garments. In fact, they even go into the factory several times a week and they're friends with the people that make these clothings. And we feel great wearing clothes that were made by happy hands. So check out Free Label. Go to educalm.com/free label. Again, that's educalm.com/free label.
Shall we dive into the show?
Let's do it.
Kailey will be doing most of the talking today because I have a mad cold that you could probably tell in my voice. So,
but the show must go on.
But the show must go on. So let's dive in.
It's a good thing we just happened to plan to have an episode where I was going to be doing most of the talking today.
All right. So go right ahead. I'll just put in my 2 cents wherever I see fit.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to young Kailey. So when I was a kid, I loved school. And I was always a super keener. I loved learning. I loved, doing whatever it was that the teacher asked us to do. I was all on board. Excuse me. I'm also getting over a cold. But I actually have a very vivid memory of parent-teacher interviews when I was in grade 1, where I was sitting with my mom and the teacher was saying, Kailey's a great student. The only problem is she's too much of a perfectionist. She spends so much time working on something to try to make it perfect, and was basically telling my mom that I needed to just stop being such a perfectionist and just move on.
That's interesting feedback, hey, from a teacher.
I know. She doesn't have to try to be so perfect all the time.
Actually, now that you say that, I've said that to a few parents at parent-teacher interviews before.
I know. It's interesting.
Certain students just are so motivated and so perfectionist.
Yeah. And I don't really know how I got that way. My mom always says that I was just born that way. And the funny thing is that while I was going through school, my parents were very supportive of my education. They helped me with my homework. They helped me to study. They taught me really good habits and things like that to help me be successful. But they never put any stress on me to get certain grades. That wasn't important to them at all. It was, for some reason, really important to me. I just remember when in grade 7, when we started getting percentages on our report cards, you know, my mom had a talk with me and was like, you know, like aim to get 70%. You know, that means that you're really putting in the effort and like, you know, you can definitely get 70%.
This is like a classic fair is not equal situation. Because if you said that to another child, that could go terribly wrong.
Yeah. And, you know, in my mind, you know, she said 70%. And in my mind, I'm laughing. So I was like, well, I'm going to get 100%, obviously.
Oh, Kailey.
Like, why would I not aim for 100%? I was just a very motivated kid.
I love it.
Also pretty competitive too. So
really shocking.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a picture of me. I aimed for 100% and I worked really hard to get it. And I was the kid that when I got, you know, 98% and I'd go to my teacher and say, well, how did I lose that 2%? And the teacher would say, Kailey, that's a really good mark. Like, it's all good. And I would say, yeah, but I need to know how I can get 100% next time. So tell me what I did wrong.
Oh, fun.
Anyway, so I was a bit intense in terms of that. And I mean, I enjoyed school and it was all very good because I loved learning. But it was once I reached university that things started to change for me. So, you know, all during elementary school, middle school, high school, I always did really well in school. It brought me a lot of joy to do well in school. I loved the learning process. I loved working on projects and studying for tests. I was kind of weird that way, I guess. Which makes sense for why I wanted to become a teacher, because I loved my teachers and it just seemed like the best profession in the world, getting to share with your students all about the things that interest you and bringing the passion that you have for these subjects into the lives of your students. That was just like the holy grail for me. Of course, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
I love it.
Yeah. I had some amazing female science teachers in high school that were just such amazing role models and really instilled a super intense love for science in me. So I have to shout out to those teachers who were just amazing. So yeah, I did really well in school, always did really well in sciences. So going into university, I just expected it to be as easy as it was for me to do well in high school. I expected it to be just as easy in university. So I got to university taking all sciences, and it was obviously difficult, which, you know, made sense. I knew it was going to be hard, so I worked really hard at it. But I started getting to a point where I started looking at how I was doing in school differently. So all my great friends that I was in all my university courses with, luckily I was in a small university, so I made some awesome friends that I'm still really close with today. But all my friends were going into medicine. So, and I wanted to be a science teacher. So they were, you know, working really hard to have super high marks because they needed to take the MCATs, they needed to get into medical school. And what I noticed was that it was just easier for them. Like, I had always been the person that did well in school because I worked really hard at it. Like, I kind of had this belief about myself that I wasn't naturally smart. It's just that I worked really hard and that's why I did well. So when I was in university and my friends were both working hard, and to me, it seemed like more naturally smart than me, I started to get this feeling that I wasn't good enough. You know, like no matter how hard I tried, I could never get those really high grades that I was aiming for. And you know, the reality of it was that I didn't need to have crazy high grades for what I was going into. I needed to have good grades. And what was most important was that I really understood the material.
That's right.
Not that I was getting a perfect grade on the test. It's because the difference for me was I was going to go out into a classroom and teach these things to my students. So my goal should have been to just want to understand the material. But that wasn't the case. My goal was I want to get good marks because that's what you do, right? That's what you aim for, is the high mark. That means that you're doing well. So I'll never forget the day where I was in my second year of university and I was taking biochemistry. And man, was this course really difficult for me.
Oh my goodness. I can only imagine.
It was actually super interesting material. The problem was that our professor wanted us to memorize a lot. So it wasn't about like understanding the processes and the concepts so much. It was about having it memorized. So, like I had to memorize the names and be able to draw out the structures of all the amino acids and these things that I would spend hours and hours and hours doing. And then after the test, it would all fall out of my brain and I couldn't remember it anymore. Again, I identified myself as someone that wasn't good at memorizing things. So when I tried to memorize things, which was a really big chunk of, doing a degree in science is a lot of memorization. So I also had this belief that I'm not very good at memorizing, so I'm, not the best science student because I can't memorize things. It just doesn't stick in my brain like it does for other people. It comes easier to other people. I'm not as good as the other people. So again, I'll never forget this day. I was struggling in biochemistry and our prof gave us this really great option to boost our grades. We were able to do this extra credit work to help us boost our grades. So every week there was an assignment we could do to help us bring up our grade. So I had done that assignment. That assignment was on top of all the other assignments because I wanted to boost my grade. So I stayed up super late that night getting it done. It was a big struggle, but okay, phew, I got it done. Now, his rule was you can hand this in for extra credit, but it cannot be a minute late. So if it's late, he's not going to accept it. Okay, makes sense. So I stay up late completing this assignment. The next morning, out of situations that were completely out of my control, like I couldn't have changed this outcome, I arrived to class 5 minutes late. 5 minutes late. And it was out of my control. So I arrived to class very frustrated first that I was late, and also knowing that I had put so much energy into completing this assignment that was going to help me boost my grade because I'm not as smart as the others, so I need to do this extra work. Hand it in. At the end of class, he says, sorry, I'm not going to accept this. So here I am, just so filled with emotion.
No kidding.
So devastated that he wouldn't take it. So upset that it wasn't something I could control. So then I figured, okay, well, I'll explain it to him and he'll understand. So, once all the other students left, I said, can I speak with you? I explained to him the situation and how it was out of my control. And he said, you know what? I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. I can't accept it. This is the rule. Like, point final. Like, there's no...
Point final. Period.
Yeah. There's no changing this. And I couldn't hold back my tears. Like I literally started crying and then was devastated because I was crying in front of my professor. And I just felt so crushed. Like just thinking about it, I can feel that emotion that I was feeling. I was frustrated. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I couldn't catch a break. I felt like there was nothing I could do to rise to the level of my peers. And that, there was no hope for me.
You felt helpless.
Helpless. And so here I am walking down the hallway, crying, embarrassed that I'm crying in public. And it just so happens that one of my other professors' door to her office was open. And she noticed me walking through the hallway and we made an eye contact. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to her. I'll explain it to her and she can say something to him and she'll help me, right? So I walk into there and she's like super kind. I really looked up to her as a mentor, and I would often go into her to talk to her during office hours. So I felt like a really close connection with her. And, I sat down and I was crying and couldn't hold back the tears and started explaining this to her and say the whole story from start to finish and why I'm so devastated and is there anything she can do to help me? And I'll never forget this. She looked at me directly in the eyes with compassion and said to me, Kailey, It's just a grade. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person, and it means nothing. And I don't know what it was about the way she said that. I was shocked, first off, that she told me that it's just a grade and it doesn't mean nothing. And then in that same instant, I was also shocked that I had never before recognized that I was attaching my self-worth to my grades. Like when she said, it's just a grade, it has nothing to do with who you are as a person, something clicked inside of me that was like, oh my God, yeah. Like this doesn't really mean, what does this mean? Why am I caring so much about a number? What is this number? Like, what is the value of it? Why am I putting this number on such a high pedestal? What is this doing for me? And it was only when she said that I recognized that I was taking the joy out of learning by giving my self-worth and my value to a number that was in someone else's hands. And then I started to really reflect, like what does this number actually mean? What's the point of getting this number? What is it saying about me? What is it saying about the effort that I put into it? And better yet, what is it even saying about the learning that happened? Does this number mean that I learned it? Or does this number just mean that the professor happened to put this really tricky question that, was out of the blue because he was throwing a curveball? Like, there's so many factors that has nothing to do with what this number means. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Of course, I know.
And that moment changed everything for me. I then started looking at my learning as like the process and the joy of learning something new, the process of taking in new information because it was fun.
Yeah, like the whole learning how to learn and enjoying learning, all of that is so much more important.
Yeah, exactly. And that I started seeing that when I was challenged with something, wait a minute, that doesn't mean that I'm not smart or that I'm not good or that, I'm a bad student. Challenge means that you're learning. And when you're struggling, that means that growth is happening. If it comes easy, I'm not learning anything. So that moment totally changed my view of education. It totally changed my view of learning and struggle and perseverance and the goal behind education. And I'm so glad that happened to me before I went into education, because it completely shaped how I looked at the evaluation process and how I looked at how I taught things in my classroom and what was the goal behind what I was teaching? What was the goal behind the tasks I was giving to my students? And I think it really shaped me from, this science background where it's a lot of memorization and just regurgitating. It shaped me from thinking that that's what I should get from my students, was them to just memorize things, and instead demonstrate to them, show to them, teach to them that a challenge is good and a challenge is fun. And when things are difficult, that means we're learning and growing. And that's the point of school. The point of school is that it's difficult, because in overcoming it, that's when we grow and learn. So that was my first understanding really of growth mindset. Before I had ever heard of growth mindset, I had that mindset shift in my life. So now that, we are so into growth mindset and reading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, and seeing how her studies and, a whole career worth of study demonstrating the benefits of having a growth mindset, because a student with a growth mindset values a challenge and sees the process of learning as an opportunity to grow themselves. Whereas a student with a fixed mindset sees learning as a test of whether you're good or bad, whether you're smart or dumb, whether you have potential or not. And the beautiful thing about growth mindset is that it's something you can teach. So in a lot of her studies, she demonstrated that something as simple as using a specific phrase to prime your students before teaching them can completely change their outlook and their comprehension of something. So something as simple as saying, before I teach this next concept, if I say, I'm going to teach you something difficult because as you struggle with this, it's going to help your brain to learn and grow and develop. And this challenge is really good for your brain, versus saying, okay, I'm going to teach you this so that at the end I can see if you understand it or not, completely shaped and changed the student's interest in the activity and their learning of the concept. So those that went into it thinking, ooh, this is an opportunity to grow my brain, versus those that were thinking, ooh, this is a chance where she's going to test to see if I learned it or not. It changed whether they tried or not. So for the students that tend to have a more fixed mindset, they would go into that and actually not even try to learn because they figured, well, if they already thought that they're not very smart, well, why would I even try?
Yeah,
exactly. So the beautiful thing is that you can teach this. It's pretty simple to teach, and it's something that you can really easily integrate into your teaching. So we have 2 whole units in EduComm Classroom on growth mindset because it's something we love to integrate. It's something we love to teach, and we think it's so important in education. So if you are interested in integrating growth mindset into your classroom, in EduComm Classroom, we have the resources to help you do that seamlessly. So you can sign up for EduComm Classroom by going to educalm.com. And then you have 2 options. You can sign up for the free trial to test it out and see if it's the right fit for you, or you can go ahead and sign up to get a full year worth of mindfulness lessons for the classroom, which include 2 whole units, so 2 whole months on the theme of growth mindset.
And really exciting workshop coming up as well, specifically on growth mindset. It's called Fostering Growth Mindset in the Classroom Through Mindfulness. That will be here in Winnipeg. So if you're in Manitoba or around, come on down. It is November 7th, and it is a full day workshop here in Winnipeg. And Kailey will be the amazing presenter of this workshop.
I'm very excited to spend a whole day talking about this. So we'll get really into the nitty-gritty of growth mindset in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we'll get into exactly how to teach this in your classroom. And as always, we will give you concrete strategies and the resources which are ready to use so that you can leave the workshop with exactly what you need to get started tomorrow. It's not one of those workshops where you get back to your classroom and you're like, oh my God, I have hours left worth of lesson planning before I can actually integrate this. We've got you covered. You will be ready to use it the second you step back into your classroom.
Shift your students' mindsets from I can't to I can.
Yeah.
And where can they register? Where can our audience, you guys, register for this workshop, Kailey?
Yes. Go to educalm.com/training, and you'll be able to get more information and register there. And you'll also see all of the other workshops that we will be hosting throughout this school year. So if there's anything else that looks interesting to you, we would love to have you there. So again, if you want to check out EduComm Classroom, or if you want to sign up for one of our trainings, specifically growth mindset, you can go to educalm.com, and all the information is there. It'll be easy to find. All right. So next week, we want to see you back here because we have more to share on growth mindset. We are going to be talking about 5 ways to integrate growth mindset into your classroom. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much and love having you as a part of our EduComm community.
Have an awesome week.
Bye.